Professor Game, where we interview successful practitioners of games, gamification, and game thinking, who bring us the best of their experiences to get ideas, insights, and inspiration that help us in the process of multiplying engagement and loyalty. And I'm Rob Alvarez. I'm a consultant and founder of the Professor Game and professor of gamification and game-based solutions at IE Business School, EFMD, EBS, University, and other places around the world. And if this content is for you, then perhaps you will find our free gamification course useful. Find it for free at professorgame.com/free gamification course. Hey, engagers, and welcome to another episode of the Professor Game podcast. And we have Sean with us today. But Sean, we need to know, are you prepared to engage?
I am prepared to engage. Like nobody's business. Let's do
this. Let's go. We have today Sean Delaney. Is that right?
Yes.
Sean Delaney is an elite business consultant, speaker, podcaster, and coach. He's worked with clients from the Fortune 500 to solopreneurs, solving some of the biggest to some of the most pervasive problems every business faces. He has been a fractional COO, the co-host of his podcast, The Ether, or the Disruptor in Chief in his anti-mastermind, Mastermind. His focus on Whadif, which is the company he is leading, is to disrupt current business thinking to transform businesses of any size into joyful and thriving impact generators. Before turning his attention to helping entrepreneurs, his client lists included MetLife, Nike, Uber, Johnson & Johnson, AIG, and JetBlue, among others. He has taken that experience and now helps entrepreneurs massively accelerate their business growth with his unique holistic business model system, the HARMONIOUS Business Architecture, trademark. With his unique blend of knowledge, experience, and humor, he has helped businesses of every size strengthen their operations, innovate for the future, and scale further, faster, and funner.
That's true. Yes. Rob, that's beautiful. Who is that guy? He sounds interesting. Did I write that? I don't think I wrote that, but that is a beautiful introduction. Thank you, Rob.
Amazing. So, Sean, is there anything we need to know about you that we don't know yet, or should we dive into what your days look like?
Let's dive into my days. Let's dive into them.
What do you do? What's up? If we were in your shoes, what would we do? What would we feel like nowadays?
So my days, what would we wow! You fired three really loaded questions at me. What's a day like? I wake up at 5 a.m., pop out of bed. I do the 3, 2, 1 countdown to make sure that it's up, out, reassess where I am. I read a little scripture or something motivational to get my head right. And then before the world is up, I open my calendar. I see what's ahead of the day. And then I open my Notion platform to see, all that project management stuff. And then what do I do? What do I do all day is I talk to business owners about exactly what you said, how to go further, faster, funner. And so I disrupt their thinking. I'm having interesting conversations with people, blowing a hole in what they think conventional wisdom, business wisdom is telling them to do. We find the 20% that's going to get them the 80% lift so they can do less, achieve more. And that's what I do. And that's and then I attend podcasts, run my mastermind, and show up in places and coach people so that they can make their dreams happen easier. And game theory is a big part of that because that's what we're talking about, right?
Awesome. Let's do this. Let's see what games can teach us for business. So how about we go for a story? A story when you were thinking of game theory, making things fun or something along those lines, and it just didn't work out. or at least not initially. Of course, there's always ways to pivot and do stuff, but we want to be there in the hard times, right? One of those times it's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? We want to be there with you. We want to learn those lessons as well.
So here's an example when I think about this. I don't want to date myself, but I was thinking about fun and inculcating that into business back in 2000. So I'm at a meeting. I'm at this point in my career, I'm working at MetLife, and we have a big strategic planning meeting. And one of the directives from leadership was, when you orchestrate this thing, also make it fun. So, great. That's why they put me in there, because they know that I love fun. So that's why the symbol on my shirt in the D in Whadif is a play button, because play has to be a part of everything you're doing. Right? You like that? Yeah. So, and it's on the upside down question mark because questions give us access to answers. Anyway, whole different discussion. But let's stay on the point of early loss with games. So they're like, make it fun. So I have this grand idea that we're going to do at this meeting. Instead of just reading off the results of senior leadership's decisions on what they think, or votes on what they think we need to do going forward for the next year, they had all submitted these answers. They said, let's do Family Feud. And we'll divide the room into 2 teams. We'll have senior leaders come up and we'll say, and, what is the number one thing that we need to sell next year to do blank? Bing, they buzz in, and then the answer comes up. Oh, great. Right. Would have been a beautiful and a great way to have people voting on, and then the teams getting together. What do we think is the next biggest idea? Because they all really know, right? Like they're all senior leaders banging together. They know what each other's goals are, things they don't want to do, right? But this is a fun way to get them to get that out and talk about the answers. Great. Except, here's the problem. Now, this is 2002, so, we've got live buzzers, and we don't have any software really. We're cobbling this together with spreadsheets and PowerPoint, and I have a junior associate. It's her first job out of college, and she's sitting there with this thing. And so a senior leader will come up and say, downstream, market capitalization. And she has to then translate that sentence into what one of the aggregate answers was. And she has no idea. Right? So then she hits the, okay. Now, this other team wins. This is the way Family Feud is. Goes back. Now they're answering all the questions. They get 50 points. And at the end, when they reveal the answers that no one got, that guy's answer comes up, but it's not the way he said it, but the entire room knows that's what he meant. And she's sitting there, and now this guy stands up and goes, I said that. We should have had this whole category. Now I'm running a game where she's my employee. I can't crap on her and be like, well, Megan, you did the wrong thing. Of course she didn't she did everything right. But I've got a whole room saying this game is unfair. And this is like this. Dude, it's the second topic. We got like 6 more to go. She's now panicked and beaten. The room has lost my trust. The game's over. Like, we're going to go through the exercise, but it's not a game anymore now. It's just, we're doing this, right?
It's going to be rote.
Yes. So that was I never lost my love for the fun or the games, but I realized, there's some elements you just got to account for, right? Anyway.
So it was a bit more on the planning, that sometimes these things we like to talk about nowadays, of course, maybe not in 2002, I'm not sure. We like to talk about playtesting.
Yes.
maybe playtesting here could have solved it, some of the issues there.
1,000%. That's it, right? So beautiful.
These things happen. This is part of what happens when you're doing things, and it could be fun and games, or it could have been, you could have been doing the most serious meeting, and then the meeting notes, this came up, right? It could have happened just the same thing, just that it didn't have a fun thing around it, and the problem would have been almost exactly the same one, right?
Yes.
Same thing would have happened.
Yes.
So, Sean, thank you very much for that story, for opening up and giving us a peek into to that difficult time where you went through, and some of the lessons you took from that. How about we go for the opposite one? How about a time when things just didn't go well? We want to hear that success, of course, be excited with you and know a little bit more about what made it happen.
It did go well. All right, so I can't say, because of NDAs, I can't get into the exact company, but think Fortune 50.
No need to say company specific names or anything like that.
So
we got
think Fortune 50 shoe company. How's that? There you go. Right.
Okay.
Right? So we were doing a project, and it's where I launched this game that I had developed over the years. That was I called it the Yellow Brick Road, and so it was taking a project or an issue and creating this game where we had the protagonists, where people in the room had to assume roles of those going down the Yellow Brick Road. So you're going to take the role of, we're not strong enough, I don't have the strength, right? Or we're not smart enough, we need to learn more. What don't we know? Or I'm not flexible enough because this is the way the world is, right? Okay, so we took those different roles and had people wearing those hats in the meeting. And then we have other people, right? The other denizens of this world, right, of Oz, would talk about the flying monkeys, okay? Because the witch was the thing that we can't get past. We know what the Emerald City is. The Emerald City is life beyond this problem. What are we trying to get to? And the thing standing in front of us is the witch, this insurmountable problem that has magical capabilities and is somehow making us believe that there's no way to get to the other side because it's not true. Okay? And then, what are the flying monkeys that are plaguing us along the way? Well, you know, we're going to have to deal with this. Yup, flying monkey. What else is sapping the strength and energy of this team? Well, we're going to have to deal another flying monkey. Great. And then we have to come up with a plan to at least ameliorate all the flying monkeys, to level up, get past the witch to get to the Emerald City. And I have to tell you, the place when this whole exercise is done well, that it gets the energy of the people, it gives the naysayers a place, it gives the people who are rigid a place, and they can have fun being in that place of no oil can.
It's
right?
not
That's
gonna
what they
happen.
say, right? And so when we say, can we do it? Right? And so Rose is sitting there. She's been here for 48 years. It's no way it's going to work. We go, so Rose, now do you feel confident in this plan? Oil can. So we know that she needs a little more juice. What would make you think that it's going to work? And it is a beautiful game and sort of, event that helps a team gel, have fun, and get to a place that they never thought they could have gotten to before, which is the whole point of the Wizard of Oz.
Awesome. That sounds very, very exciting. And now that we've seen you coming up with at least two things, one that did work, one that didn't work. You have plenty of experience. You've been doing this for years. I'm guessing that when you have to create something, an experience, a sort of a game or whatever for these companies, you follow set of ways of doing it, a process, steps, I don't know, a framework.
Yeah.
How do you do it? We want to get into your mind for a bit and see what that looks like.
I love that. So I haven't really ever laid it out. This is the beautiful access you're giving me, is I've never really laid it out as a process before I was asked, how do you do it as a process? But essentially, these are the elements that I'm playing with. I think first about what is the mission of whatever we're trying to change, right? Because there's two kinds of games. There's games that are just for fun. There is no point to playing a card game of war with my son, because other than the fun of it, right? Because there's nothing happens at the end of it. There is no outcome, that no one's changed at all, really. It's just the essence of fun. Then there are the games that are to change something. And so those are, I'm going to make a game of becoming a marathoner, or I'm going to make a game of business metrics, or I'm going to make a game of weight loss. There is a resultant outcome that we're looking for. So there's two, in my mind, I don't know how you think about this. I would never tell the professor how to think about games, but how dare I? But I think there's like two kinds of games. The ones that are, the intent is solely for the enjoyment of the game. And then there are games that are also to change some kind of change reality, make an outcome in the world. And so when we're talking in business to business leaders, how to gamify, how to pull in games to business, you have to understand that you're not just playing for fun, you're playing for stakes. And once you're playing for stakes, fairness gets elevated, because I played the game and it wasn't fair is the genesis of all feelings of loss. And so
it means
you shouldn't
something
play
entirely different, right?
If I play Uno with my son, no one feels like they lost, even when they lost. It was fun, and there was a winner and loser, but you don't feel it, as opposed to business stakes, where once emotions there in the outcome are there, you have to pay homage to those emotions. So the first step is, what is the mission, and what are the stakes around it? Great. And is every player equally attuned to that mission? So that's the first thing. It's sort of core value. What are we doing, and who are we to align? And then the second thing is, do we have the right players in the game? Because to be inclusive, the game has to match the player and vice versa. And so who is best optimized to be here? So we at Whadif now have a business partner, Human Op, where they can, in a 10-minute diagnostic, tell you exactly who you are at your core and what energizes you, does not energize you, where you like to play in the world, which is beautiful, again, because we're all about play. So as long as I know the purpose of the game, the players I have in the game, I can design a game that will achieve that mission of not just being fun, but moving us to a different state. And then you know the pieces that you have available to you to create a game. Like, what are the things? I want to move people from this mental state to this mental state. I need a game to do that. Then I need to transition them from here to there. I need them to acknowledge what hasn't been working and then accept a new reality. Well, then we have some tools there, right? And so you move them along, which is what any great game does, even open world games, is they lay out whatever process you want to get there, like Red Dead Redemption 2, right? Like, we know there's no point. What's the point? I'm living in the Old West. What's the level? Do I have to do anything at any particular time? No. You play according to how you want to play and experience it how you want to experience it. But you're getting to somewhere, right? We're not just for an hour riding a horse. We're going somewhere, right? Or are we not? So for me, it's the game that, that's the difference. Are we playing, gin rummy with my son and no one wins anything? Or are we playing the game of leveling up our business, developing a new project, a product, getting rid of the problem in marketing where nobody's playing together well? Like, whatever the insurmountable thing is, let's surmount that together. Let's make a game around it.
Sounds great. Thank you very much for that sneak peek into your mind, into your process, into what you are an absolute expert at doing, Sean. And Sean, talking about, you talked about your process, but I'm sure that there are things that you've seen along the years and with your experience that, when I do this, things go, better. When I don't do this, things go a little bit worse or a lot worse. What could be like a best practice or something that you say, well, if, I have to consistently do this because otherwise, the result is going to suffer?
Yeah, I think one of them is if we're still talking about gamification, if you're using that to do things, make sure you're not designing the game to orchestrate the outcome. Because if you're like, well, I want everyone to get to this place, so we'll play a game to get them there. That's manipulation. That's not playing the game, right? And so if the game is, well, there are a myriad of outcomes, and we're going to let intelligent players play the game according to the rules and see where the outcome comes, then as long as it's structured fairly, no one should have the sense of loss, right? This is true of any negotiation, politics, well, anything, right? Like if we believe the game was fair, then we're accepting the outcome. And if we don't, then the players don't want to do it. They don't like it. They don't accept the outcome, right? And so are we engineering the game in order to get an outcome, or are we allowing all players to play fairly and have whatever outcome comes? And so if you're a business owner and you're trying to say, well, we're going to use a game to come up with our next year's big strategy, and I really want to make sure it's this, go-to-market fast strategy, so I'm going to make sure that all the numbers line up that way. Now you're manipulating people and using fun to do it, and I call Bravo Sierra on that all day, every day. Like, that's BS. You can't, no way. But if you're because it is not fun. That's manipulation, right? And so,
and it's not ethical. What's in it for me, right? So the players there also to get something out of the game.
Yeah. So I think we need to understand those energies, those human dynamics of the players in the game, because it's not just a logic puzzle. I love this about game theory, where it's like, you're assuming rational players. I've never met a rational player ever. Have you ever met a rational person, Rob? I've never met somebody who doesn't have filters and layers and
predictably
emotions.
Irrational is what Ariely would say, right?
Right? Predictably irrational. Exactly right. So, anyway, beautiful. We got to account for that.
Cool. Cool. Love that. The fact I initially it was like, well, of course, there has to be an objective, right? But the objective is not something that is fixed in stone, is what I'm hearing from you. And that's where I like, oh yeah, that one I not only understand, but I stand behind as well. It's, there has to be some degrees of what people can and can't do and where they can and cannot get to, right? It's not just what you decide as a designer, right? I think that there needs to be this kind of thing. And this involves, of course, the client as well. So
it's
thank
the
you
seed
for
of
that.
innovation. It's the root of innovation. It's like, lightning unencumbered or unobstructed is deadly, but lightning in a glass is a light bulb that powers the world. And so you need to have a framework. We want to allow people to be wildly innovative, but within the context of the game that we're doing, so we can contain it, capture it, and then channel it somewhere. And so that's essentially kind of the dynamic we're doing. It's like, let's set the guardrails, then unleash them into the world in the paradigm of the game that we're setting up, and then channel it back into some kind of useful innovation afterwards. That's the innovation process that we also teach. Yeah.
Interesting. Love it. So, Sean, we've been talking about these questions. You've heard a bit of what the podcast is about and such. Is there somebody that comes to your mind that you say, well, I would be interested in hearing this or that person being interviewed in the podcast, answering these questions? Let's say a featured guest for the podcast.
100%. So Wei Hong, I will send you his contact information. He is the CEO, visionary leader of HumanOp, that new partner that we have that does that diagnostic on the human being, gives you essentially a roadmap, a owner's manual for who you individually are and how you can show up best in the world. He would blow your mind, Rob. You're gonna love having Wei on here. I'll be disappointed in you if you don't have him on this show. He's amazing. He's gonna blow people's minds.
Sounds like a very good recommendation. Indeed, and keeping up with that, how about a book? Which book would you recommend? Again, we are people here who are thinking of games in a different way, not just entertainment, as you said at the start, but using them or their strategies for something else.
Book. Well, let's do a visual here. Let's do it.
We are also recording on camera for one of the few times that we've done this before, so he is showing on screen what he will describe right now.
The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman. It is incredible, and it is about who you need to be. So imagine in a game, if we're gamifying things, what's your avatar? Who are you? Who needs to show up to get this mission done? And I think it is a really important part of gamifying anything to think about, I can actually be somebody else in this game. I can hang my whatever, my disharmonious feelings, thoughts, lenses at the door and come into this room and achieve these things, and I can be this person in this game. And it is a beautiful, beautiful example of luminaries and visionaries and people we all respect and admire who have done that very thing, who have created alter egos as part of their weapons in the world to achieve their visions. So I highly recommend it.
Hadn't ever heard of that book, but I have to say, you say that, and I think immediately of a friend and fellow gamification expert, Andrzej Marchewski. I don't know if you've heard of him. The Hexad user types and the book. The funny name. It's Ninja Monkeys Like to Play. Also, Ninja Monkeys Like to Play, or something like that. Okay. The book is very, very good. It's very deep. It's very serious in the end, but it has its whimsy as well on the title.
Writing it down.
He
love
wanted
it.
to
Serious and whimsy. I love it.
He wanted it specifically. It's funny. We were talking once, and one of the things he wanted was to see in a very serious paper, doing research and stuff, somebody quoting, also Ninja Monkeys Like to Play. Right? So you're always expecting an article that is very, very serious and that kind of stuff. But here, he wanted to have this book quoted exactly that way. So.
Well, that's great. Serious
and he has a
whimsy.
Unicorn edition. So. If you want to take it even further.
Unicorn edition is great for anything. Serious Whimsy was my exotic dancer name back in the day. I'm kidding. It's not true. But that would be good. Serious Whimsy.
We have to do a short on social media starting with that. That's my...
Let's go with it. Let's lean in. Serious Mimsy. She's got attitude. Watch out, Rob. I don't know. Alter ego. Sorry. We're like getting meta with our meta. All right. It's amazing. All right. Great.
Sounds great. So within this whimsy world of fun and all these things, what would you say is your superpower? That thing that you do at least better than most other people. And remember, Thor can fly, Wonder Woman can fly. There's many people, well, those are different universes. But anyways, there's many people who can fly, many people who are really strong. It doesn't have to be unique.
Yeah.
Where would you stand there?
I think for me, if I'm talking about if it's a superpower unique to me, and whether Superman can't teach anybody to be Superman, right? So
Exactly.
when I think of Superman, like superpower, that's kind of like this is the thing. So for me, it is access to that fun energy in the middle. So I can be, there's typically like a wheel of emotions that people have to go through in order to get to a certain place. And so wherever they're starting from something, they kind of have to move from angst and into worry and then into sort of hope and joy. I'm really like speeding up the level, right? Or the layers, right? There's like many layers to those emotions. I have been told by way our partner at Human Up that I have the access to humor, which is sort of the ether in the middle that allows you to jump from one thing to the other. So I am that person at the wake who can deliver a speech that will, yes, people are crying, but then also have them laughing at the appropriate points, right? In order to move people through the emotional space that they need to move. And so in projects, is similarly, we can move people past the blocks if we jump to humor because we don't have to go through 19 other steps. And so finding the fun and the joy and this sort of spirit of it's all okay. Life's happening for us and not to us. And so it's all okay. It's all okay.
Life's happening for us. I like that one.
Yeah. And so that's my superpower, that at any given moment, no matter what the situation is, no matter what the stakes are in the game, I'm the one going, it's okay. It's going to be okay.
Cool. I like it. I love it. Very useful, especially in this industry we are in.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
What would be your favorite game? And don't tell me the Yellow Brick Road. Something you didn't create. Something you play.
Have I already tipped my hand? It would be something I created. No, so it depends. So like video games, I like open world stuff like Red Dead Redemption 2 or like there's an overarching kind of thing we're achieving, but do it however you think best. I like those kinds of games. And then, when we're talking not video games, I like the super simple games. I like playing Uno with my kids, where it's clear who's winning, losing, and it's random, and we can all have fun during it. And there's no context or nobody's going to bed crying because they didn't win the game, right? So I like
draw four,
yeah, maybe my son. But so it's I like those kinds of games, the ones that it's open, honest, and inclusive. Anybody can play it, right? And then at the higher stakes, I like the games that really matter. I like the ones where you can play them and get a massive win for them, so which is why we gamify things like strategic planning for companies or their project management solution that, and how to do projects. We make that a game and we're changing the world, man. So I like that kind of thing. But so from standard games, I would say Red Dead Redemption and Battleship. How's that?
Sounds cool. Sounds very, very cool. Thank you for that. Sean, we're arriving to the end of the interview. Of course, we don't want to let you go before you tell us where we can find out more about Whadif, your work, whatever it is you're doing, any call to actions, any final piece of advice you have for the engagers, our audience. Now is the time. Yeah,
so two things. So if they wanted to hear more from me, we have podcasts and we have a mastermind. We have all kinds of things. We have that diagnostic that's free that'll tell you in 8 minutes where the big major sticking point is in your business that's not helping you scale further, faster, funner. You take that, just go to whadif.com. It's with a D. That's how we say it in Jersey. What if, right? So, but it's also the D is an upside down question mark because we turn questions on their head, and it's a play button because we love to play. So whadif.com, WHADIF.com, and you'll get access to us there. And all kind of wild, wacky stuff that we're doing, and so that you can scale further, faster, funner, because that's what it's all about, right, Rob?
Awesome. Love it. Thank you very much.
And the last piece of advice, if you are getting stuck in not seeing the possibilities of things, a childlike innocence is the greatest place to be, and we can't always get that when we know the stakes of the game. So when things are really dire and grim and the stakes are there, ask a kid. Explain the problem to the child as you would explain it to a child, and you will get a childish answer in which the nugget of truth will be found. And you will be amazed at the wisdom of children when you explain it to them, because it forces you to distill things down. If I have to explain something to my 6-year-old, I guarantee you, by the time I'm done explaining it to him in a way that he understands it, I now finally understand it.
You actually understand it better. It's one of the things when people sometimes say, well, teaching and all the things that come with teaching as well. When you teach, it's not just about what you get other people to do, right? It's also about yourself. You need to really understand what's going on for you to be able to.
Every interaction with other people, every interaction with other people is a mirror, and you either see it or don't.
Totally. So, Sean, thank you very much for joining us today. I know you have plenty of things to do, all that work that you're doing that is amazing. But you came here, you distilled some of that knowledge for us, for the engagers here. However, Sean, engagers, as you know, at least for now and for today, it is time to say that it's game over. Thank you for listening to the Professor Game podcast. And since you are into gamification and game-inspired solutions, how about you go to professorgame.com/free gamification course and get started today for free. After that, we can also be in contact, and you'll be the first to know of any opportunities that we can have for you here at Professor Game. Remember, also, before you go on to your next mission, remember to subscribe using your favorite podcast app and listen to the next episode of Professor Game. See you there.